Hello and welcome to another update video about Solana. Solana is currently dropping down a little bit. Obviously Solana has come down in this long correction, has come into my target area, has held this purple support box. So we talked about it. We talked about if Solana drops below this $75 to $81 support box, it is very likely it's going to drop into this new target area between $55 and $30. Now, this is sitting between the 88.7% Fib level and the 78.6% Fibonacci retracement level. What I need to highlight is it doesn't need to reach it. For me, it is still the most likely scenario that Solana will get to the $55 level, but it doesn't need to. Okay, so personally, I would not wait with purchasing before we reach, until we reach it. That's at least my strategy. I started to buy already Solana, waiting for the next major wave up, because there is no guarantee we reach it. Solana has completed its the minimum requirements for the correction. It's done its ABC correction. It's made a lower low. I'm happy with it. It has fulfilled my scenario that I've been talking about since the end of November, and now it's all about identifying when Solana could break out here to the upside and get to a more sustainable move to the upside, and that is what we are waiting for. When do we finally get back into the bull run? So if we take a look at this pattern here, we talked about this pattern, the on the daily here, this descending wedge. It looked like that Solana was breaking out, and to be fair, it still looks like it. We had on the chart here this ascending trend line. Now the problem is that this was now broken. Okay, so I told you yesterday that as soon as this trend line is broken, Solana will have it more difficult to start to move higher. And what could happen is that it then starts trailing along here, this resistance level of that, or new support level of that descending wedge, and at some point then maybe start to go up. But we had that before with some other cryptos where you had some sort of a fake out, and then it couldn't really get away from that descending wedge, and it was just hovering above it. So nothing too nice. So it looks a bit like the immediate uptrend is broken. That is also why I was so skeptical, or rather skeptical about it. We need those confirmations to really understand if we're back in a sustainable uptrend. We want to get above $105, 122. It's still quite a few meters away, but that's just what it is. We need to make those higher highs, higher lows. You can see that currently all that Solana is doing is just another lower high and even a lower low here, at least on the daily. You can see that wick down here. Yes, compared to that we've made a higher low, but generally if you look at the candles that were closed, we're making lower lows here. Now it generally looks a bit like we could still be in a descending wedge, and to be fair, because I used here those daily closed candles, but if we take a look at the 4-hour chart, it really looks like as if we still are in that descending wedge, because on the 4-hour chart you can paint or draw that pattern differently. So we can move that trend line up a little bit, basically just using the 4-hour candles. There you go. So that looks a bit like that we are still in that descending wedge. We haven't actually broken out yet, and that would make sense because we haven't really seen increased volume, and what is coming up here is not really convincing. I told you that yesterday. There are too many overlaps here, so you come up and you can already see that next low is cutting into the previous high. That is not a bullish sign, that is corrective. Also here you can see that you're going up, that next low is cutting into the previous high, also not a bullish sign. On top of that, you had on the 4-hour chart a bearish divergence. So again here, indicator that we are dropping down, and we did. So that is always worth keeping in mind. Looking at the bearish divergences, looking at the MACD. The MACD also printed a bearish crossover. And generally understanding the price structure, those overlaps, they are not really good. They are not very bullish, and they are not impulsive. In the end, what we want here is an impulsive move to the upside. We want a first 5-wave structure to the upside, and this definitely is a very much 3-wave like. It's not a 5-wave move. yeah, it doesn't look convincing. So in the end, we could still have that descending wedge here on the chart. So that could indicate if we really break out of it on a 4-hour chart perspective, maybe that is then the real breakout. Yesterday, that was not really a breakout. We didn't have the volume. We couldn't move away from that trend line. So in this case, I think the 4-hour pattern seems to be the more relevant one. Okay. If you break out of this descending wedge, then I think the target, the first target, would be the beginning of the wedge. In this case, that would be the $122 level. That would at least be, from where we are now, a 35% profit. However, obviously we haven't broken out yet, and if I was doing this as a short-term trade again, I would only do it as long as we break out, retest, and then I see increasing volume come in. Okay, and we couldn't see that volume, and it's actually dropping below that ascending trend line that I put on the chart. So I'm going to take that out. And we are still hovering. We seem to be hovering at the moment above that 20-day moving average here in orange. Question is, how long are we actually going to hold it? It hasn't respected that 20-day moving average here a lot during this up and down. So wouldn't be surprised if we lose that again and then potentially test that previous low here at $85 or at $81. I mean, we still have a MACD on the 4-hour, which is bearish. It seems to be flattening out for now. But then if we take a look at the daily, it's already losing buying momentum, the daily. And if you look at what happened previously, when you moved up, after that you moved down. Then you moved up, then you moved down. Here we moved up. So the next logical step again would actually be to retest that lower support. That would take us again probably into that target box at around $75, $77. But really what it is here, we are in a pattern. I also need to tell you that we are in a pattern, we're in a range. Typically what I would always do before making a decision, I would wait until there is a breakout of a pattern, because in a pattern, the market is still very indecisive. So for example, personally, dollar cost averaging in such a pattern for me is not an issue. I do that based on my buy orders that channel members can find on Discord. But if I wanted to enter a long trade here, just a typical trade, I wouldn't do this when we are still in a pattern, okay? Because we are still constrained here and the price needs to tell us what is coming next. Yeah, I can't tell you what's coming next. We can only make a decision as soon as the price is breaking out of this wedge. And generally what is happening here, yes, we can see the downtrend is slowing down. That is why we are in this wedge. And what we need to understand, the wedge does not need to break out to the upside. It can also break out to the downside. So we want to be prepared. And also, if it breaks out to the upside, it does not mean that we get back to new all-time highs. It only means that we could get back into a temporary uptrend. And then what I would want to see is at least a break above $122 to be more confident that, yeah, maybe the low was already in. Generally looking on the Solana chart, we can see that on the weekly, that negative momentum on the weekly chart is constantly reduced. So at some point we are going to see these crazy gains again. Yeah, we are reducing that negative momentum on the weekly, and also on the 4-day chart, we are going to get a bullish crossover here shortly. And that could be another buy signal. So if that, for example, falls together with a price breaking out of that descending wedge, this could be a really good buy signal. The 4-day chart is quite meaningful. We already have that bullish crossover on the MACD on the 2-day chart, but the 2-day chart oftentimes I don't like that much. What I have seen in the past is that many of these MACD crossovers on the 2-day chart, they still look, when they are bullish, they still look very much sideways, and they have less meaning than, for example, the 4-day chart or the 1-day chart. Alright, that is my view here currently on Solana. Hopefully you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.